Like, did you see President Trump's name redacted, Lee Wexler's name redacted? Can you share anything about that?
I didn't put Donald Trump in the search engine, so I couldn't tell you.
Why not?
You wrote the email about the little girl who was, quote, a little naughty.
I did, and that was a woman that wrote that. And so it may be proper to redact it, and it may not be. I don't know. It seems like part of their algorithm for redaction was just to redact every woman in there, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we can't parse if the person who sent that was a victim or not.
Look, none of this is designed to be a witch hunt. If just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island, or showed up to the ranch, or showed up to the home knowing underage girls were being paraded around, and some of the sickening stuff in there about the violence. And what we want to do is have the investigation to get to those people, to answer those questions. Not to say that every internet rumor about some email is going to be true. And like I said, in some of the cases, the redactions may have been appropriate. But for Thomas and me, it's never been about getting Donald Trump or getting Bill Clinton or scoring political points or trying to destroy people's reputations. It's about actually getting justice for these survivors.
Do either of you plan to read the 6 names on the House floor?
I think we need to give the DOJ a chance to go back through and correct their mistakes.
How long do they have to do that? How long do they have to redact these files?
They're already breaking the law. Look, they're way past the deadline. And the reason they gave for taking so much time is so they wouldn't release victims' information. But in fact, they've released all kinds of victims' information. So the problem here is not the deadline. The problem is they need to go back. They need to themselves check their own homework or have somebody else check it. And as Rose said, they need to go to the U.S. attorneys and the FBI, who are compelled by the legislation directly to produce that material to them unredacted.
And I think, look, we could have brought contempt or impeachment weeks ago, but our interest is in actually getting the information out. And as a result of the strategy we've been pursuing, this is the largest release of the Epstein files in history. Now, it's not enough, but it has exposed people in the highest levels in technology, in finance, in real estate. It has exposed the establishment and monarchies in other countries. So our push is, how do we expose this and have accountability, not how do we score political points or have retribution.
What questions are you going to ask Pam Bondi?
Well, he's on the committee.
We'll see Wednesday.
A lot of the redactions were already made before the files were in the hands of the attorneys. Who do you suspect made those redactions?
It seems that they were made by the FBI or they were made by attorneys in the grand jury, but the Justice Department, it seems, got some of these documents already redacted. Our law was very clear. Unless something was classified, it required it to be unredacted. And they have not complied with that law. And that law needs to be complied with, because that's where a lot of the information is, especially about the powerful people in this country and what their involvement was. And, you know, their involvement could have been that they were showing up at this island knowing that there was pedophilia taking place. Their involvement could have been that they were actually engaged in raping underage girls, or knowing that underage girls were being raped. We won't know until we see those files.
Ghislaine Maxwell and her lawyers, Stephen, say?
6 men were implicated in
It's a list of 20. You can actually, I'll direct you to the unredacted, or the redacted file. It's a list of 20 individuals. 3 or 4, Maxwell and Epstein are on the list, and maybe 1 or 2 other people. And everybody else is redacted. And their names are redacted, but it also includes 20 pictures, 20 photographs. They're sort of mugshots. They're not the best pictures. I'm not sure if they were mugshots or not. But there are at least 3 or 4 males in the photographs. I couldn't verify by looking at their names because they have foreign names. I couldn't verify by looking at their names that they were male. till I went and looked at the photographs. By the way, in the document I'm directing you to, the photographs are redacted and their names are redacted. There is no reason in our legislation that allows them to redact the names of those men, as far as I can tell.
Unless there are any male survivors, which seems, hard to believe given this issue. But and all the women that are redacted, it's unclear if they were just actual survivors, in which case they did the appropriate thing, or whether they just, as Thomas said, had an algorithm to take out any woman's name.
There's also hold on a second. There's also an FBI form that lists people who are conspirators, and one of those is a male. It's like on an FBI form, they've redacted his picture and his name on that form where they were, I guess, considering an indictment or indicting or something. I could also, I don't have the number in front of me, but I could direct you. It's a 3-page EFTA file.
Justice Department has said it's ready to vote.
Was this, were authorities...
I'm not sure if they're mugshots.
Were authorities investigating these individuals, or like...
In one instance, it was. And in the other instance, it seemed to be.
I've got to go. I'll let Thomas...
No, I got to go, too.
All right.
One last question for you, Congressman Khanna. Congressman Massey has called for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to face potentially some accountability for the connection that he has in these files. Do you support that call?
Absolutely. Look at what's happening in Britain. You have a left government. Actually, I know Keir Starmer. I was excited when he won. And yet I believe he needs to be held accountable with what's happened with Mendelssohn. You have the British monarchy having to answer questions. I mean, the King of England is putting out statements. And yet in our country, we have not had that reckoning. People in power, whether they're in government, whether they're in finance, whether they're in technology, if they have been implicated in the files in morally embarrassing ways and in ways that shock the conscience, should be held accountable. And it should be regardless of party.
You're calling for Howard Lutnick to resign.
I believe that Lutnick, at the very least, needs to be brought before Congress. I think, based on the evidence, he should be out of the cabinet. But I mean, people say, "Oh, you're just a Democrat saying that." No, I mean, look at what he is, how much influence he had with Epstein, and he wasn't transparent about it. But again, it's not about Lutnick, and it's not about any particular person. In this country, we have to make a decision. Are we going to allow rich and powerful people who were friends and no problem doing business and showing up with a pedophile who was raping underage girls? Are we just going to allow them to skate? Or like other countries, are we going to have elite accountability and have accountability for the people who did that? Most Americans believe we need accountability.
Can you confirm that President Trump wasn't on this list?
No, I didn't see him on that.
Congressman Massey, in the last week...
We were just hearing from Representative